It's that time of year again. Everyone knows that the holidays can become overwhelming quickly, so the sooner you get things done, the better. For both shoppers and businesses, the best time to score great deals during the holidays is Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, from household names to entrepreneurs who are participating in their first Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year. This Black Friday, join thousands of new entrepreneurs hearing for the first time with Shopify. Sign up for your free trial today at shopify.com/promo. That's shopify.com/promo. Go to shopify.com/promo and make this Black Friday one to remember.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday Game Day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup Group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday Game Day, only on Prime.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire, who is currently still doing his countdown in slow motion. I feel I made a mistake saying that you'd make a good mime artist the other day, Kieran. How are you this news day? I see your Movember moustache is coming along. I can't say that very seriously.
It's coming along. Yeah. Yes, the Baroness has pointed out to me that there are 4 days left in November, and she can't wait. I was hoping to bring it with me to the FSA Awards next Monday. Still time to vote, folks. But no, I've been told unceremoniously midnight is going off.
Okay, that sounds good. I like. There's a kind of raffish Swiss Tony in progress look about it. I like it. It's Newsday, Kieran. There's a couple of interesting news stories. There's one, I suppose, outstanding news story, but again, it sort of went under the radar a little bit in the press. But Premier League clubs have agreed a bunch of new financial rules. So what was up for grabs? What was agreed and what wasn't agreed at last week's Premier League clubs meeting?
Yeah, I think it broadly went along as we expected, but it is quite revealing that when Richard Scudamore was in charge, and this is not a criticism of Richard Masters, by the way, in any way, shape or form, that it was possible to corral the 20 members of the Premier League into voting unanimously. There were 3 significant votes last Friday. Now, to be fair, on one of them, I think there was a 20-0 vote in favour. And this was just sort of broad reporting rules, has no sort of impact. So I wasn't too bothered by that. That's the sustainability and systemic resilience rules. Okay, we ain't going to be talking about them ever. In my view, it's broadly to bring the Premier League into line with, I think, some of the tests which will be demanded by the IFR. I can't remember who suggested a few things to the IFR. Probably some theoretical accountants, but yeah, those are sort of box ticking. Yeah, involves working capital, some solvency stress tests, and so on. My concern with those is that I think they're relatively easy to manipulate, but that was a complete non-issue. And then,
sorry, Kieran, before you carry on with the big issues, I think we need to explain to the listeners why you're so Humpty about the words theoretical accountant, which I didn't know about until we did our live gig last week in Brighton. But you took umbrage. You bridled. You very rarely bridle, but you bridled at the phrase theoretical accountant.
Yeah, well, everybody's entitled to an opinion.
Who called you a theoretical accountant, Kieran?
Well, I'm not sure the exact person, but I believe, should we say, lobbyists representing a well-known football institution said, "Take no notice of him. He's only a theoretical accountant." Okay, well, is 2 + 2 = 4? Is it? Yeah, I then sort of had this existential discussion with myself. Is 2 + 2 = 4 theoretical?
Oh, I suppose if 2 + 2 = 5, that would be.
Or Chelsea, as it's more commonly known.
I mean, theoretically, I'm an accountant, really. But if you want to go down those routes, but yeah. So I just felt it necessary because people will be listening to this going, he seemed a bit. Why do you use that phrase, theoretical accountant, with that level of animosity in his voice? So let's get on to the two big issues in the Premier League here.
Yes, and this is quite intriguing because I think the Premier League executive were putting forward two proposals which they felt would work well alongside one another. And one of those was accepted and one of those was rejected. So if we start off with the vote which went in favour, this was for the squad cost rules. There were 6 clubs who were opposed to the rules. And those 6 clubs were Brentford, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Bournemouth and Leeds United.
Oh.
Or in other words, the teachers' pets of football finance, as far as the Premier League is concerned. I think there's a lot of admiration for those clubs in terms of the way that they're run. And I include Palace in that.
Yeah.
And I genuinely include Palace in that. I think people were a bit surprised why Leeds voted against. But Leeds have just been promoted. So why were these clubs against it? And just to firstly go into the rules, what it means is sort of 2 things. You can spend 85% of the money you make from ticket sales, the TV money, and your commercial income, and player sales. But it looks as if, and we'd have to wait for the small print to arise here, it looks as if your player sales you'll divide those by 3, the profits on those. Effectively, you're spreading them over 3 years. And then you can spend 85% of that on player wages and your head coach wages, our very good friend amortization, player write-downs, if a player turns out to be a bit rubbish, and agent fees. And the agents were pretty hacked off being included in this, so therefore we'll come to the agents in a minute. So it's similar to what we have in UEFA, but in UEFA you can only spend 70% of your money. In the Premier League, you can spend 85%. So therefore, those clubs who are qualifying for Europe, they'll effectively just have to abide by the UEFA rules. I had a conversation with a club, and this was an intriguing one, and the reaction of the club was, we now have got a slightly awkward position. It's going to be really bad news if you're a... Yeah. That's Finley, by the way. It wasn't my stomach rumbling.
He didn't like the sound of bad news, did he?
He didn't like the sound of bad news. This is going to be potentially bad news for those clubs that qualify for the Europa Conference, because you don't make very much money from the Europa Conference, but you'll only be allowed to spend 70% on wages, whereas the club that finishes one place below you will be allowed to spend 85%. Now, the reason why we've got these 2 different numbers is that there's a view taken that if you qualify for Europe, you get a lot more money. So therefore, it's 70% of a much bigger number.
I see, yeah.
So qualifying for the Europa Conference for this season going forward, and it does. I don't think it will apply to all clubs, but for clubs of our stature, And this is why I suspect Brighton, Brentford, Palace, Fulham, Bournemouth, all of whom potentially could have finished 7th last season, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Why have they voted against? Everybody acts in self-interest. And I'm not going to say they're going to actively try to avoid finishing 7th, but financially, you're going to be worse off.
Right.
And qualifying for the Europa Conference than if you finished 8th in terms of the flexibility of being able to spend. So that was quite an intriguing one. Then there are various bits and pieces which I really don't think we need to go on, but you can spend more money than the 85% limit if you're prepared to go up to there's the 85% is what's known as your green threshold, and then you have a red threshold, which is 30% higher. You can imagine how these rules were being devised. This is really, this is a hotel conference room just off the M6 with loads of people, sort of from various consultancies. So some things I think which was really good in the sense that we do have some clarity. If you break the rules, you will get an automatic 6-point penalty. And then for every £6.5 million that you spend above your limit, you'll get an additional point. So at least we know in advance these are the ramifications if you do choose to break the rules. The devil will be very much in the detail. I think some things, again, are to be applauded, that the Premier League has managed to persuade the clubs that how to describe it? The nonsense of football clubs selling real estate to themselves and selling the women's team to themselves in order to comply with PSR, those transactions will be excluded from your SCR calculations. So therefore, going forwards, clubs won't be able to do it. And some people have contacted me saying, well, isn't this really good news for Chelsea? Because they've effectively, for one of it was put to me, Chelsea have got away with it. Just like Chelsea got away with the 8 and 9 year contracts when it came to amortisation. And I understand where those people are coming from. At the same time, Chelsea simply applied what was a really poorly drafted set of rules. They didn't break the rules. So I'm no lover of Chelsea, as you know, but I don't really see the sort of the irritation towards the club apart from the usual.
Kieran,
Sure.
can I just ask you a couple of questions now?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I'll be asking you 10 at the end of it, if you don't mind. First of all, could you explain what the red threshold is?
Yeah, what we refer to as the green threshold is you can't spend more than 85% of your revenue on wages, etc. However, if you do go higher, for one season, you can go as high as 115%. So if you want to really go for it, then you can go for this higher figure, but you effectively then have to cut back in season number 2, unless, of course, let's say that you are a Premier League club, a new owner comes in, such as we've seen at Forest, we've seen at Bournemouth, and so on, and they say we really want to accelerate things. This will allow you to accelerate. If that works out and you get into Europe, you then have to go and drop back the following season. So you effectively get a one season, all of the house can go into this level of spending.
Right,
and then you get penalised for it in subsequent seasons.
Right, so if you were to do it in the second season, that's when the 6-point deduction.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right.
And finally, in this section, why would agents have the hump at being included in that figure?
Well, they don't see themselves as being a player cost. There's an ongoing beef between agents and clubs, which we'll come to when we look at anchoring. That many agents feel that they offer a professional service for their clients, and they're being demonised. I think I read somewhere that overall agent costs were around about 6.5% of payroll, or the equivalent of 6.5% of payroll these days. which clearly is a significant number. What I thought, looking at that, how are we going to define agent fees? And I think here there's the opportunity. Again, if I talk to some of our lawyer friends, say, there's an opportunity here to be creative. They're not agents' fees; they're management consultancy fees. We can rebrand them at certain clubs, and I think we will go back to the position that we currently occupy, where we are playing whack-a-mole. Somebody thinks, let's give that a go, and when I saw the press release, and fair play to the Premier League, I think it was a good, solid press release. I'm looking forward to they say that they're going to update the Premier League handbook for all of this. Which, if that comes out on Christmas Eve, I'm just going to.
It's bad enough, Kieran. You're actually going to Lapland in December to see the big guy, as you call him.
Big guy, yes.
If you get to see the big guy and new Premier League handbook comes out before Christmas, I'm going to be so jealous. So jealous.
Imagine. Yes.
Well, can we move on then to the vote that was rejected?
Yes, the vote that was rejected was on anchoring, top to bottom anchoring.
Yeah.
And here the votes were 7 in favour, 12 against, and 1 abstention. Again, seen as I presume it was the same club. There was significant opposition to this, and again from agents. They were saying they were going to launch a lawsuit to say that the rules were anti-competitive, counterproductive, and so on. It also talking to the PFA, and we've got a good relationship with the PFA. In fact, I'm going up to the PFA as soon as we finish this podcast to do some teaching. They were opposed to it as well, not necessarily because of the impact on the Premier League, because I suspect it wouldn't have impacted upon clubs significantly. But there was a genuine fear that if it was copied by the EFL in the Championship, and for people not familiar with anchoring, what you do is that you take the broadcast money, which is earned by the club effectively finishing bottom of the Premier League. So last season, I think that would have been Southampton on about 110 million. You multiply that by a magic number, and that magic number currently is 5. So you take 110 million, multiply that by 5, and now you can spend £550 million. And this applies to every single club. So in isolation, this is really good for those clubs such as Newcastle and Aston Villa, potentially Everton, potentially Forest, perhaps Birmingham in a couple of seasons. We'll be coming to that story a bit later, because it means that you can spend the same amount on wages by having a hard cap as Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and so on. And the argument in favour of that is it makes for a more competitive Premier League. I think Palace and Brighton voted against that because they say, well, we're never going to be in a position where we can pay wages of 550 million.
Sure.
So, why should we go for it? The reason why the PFA are opposed to it in terms of the EFL is that if you applied that same principle to the Championship, side finishing bottom of the Championship gets about £10 million in TV money. Multiply that by 5, you've got a wage bill of £50 million. I was talking to somebody at a club who says our current wage bill is about £180 million. We're looking at a 70% wage cut. How are we going to impose a 70% wage cut in the year after relegation? Yes, we can persuade players to take relegation clauses, 15, 20, 25% max. There is no way that a player... So it would cause absolute chaos. And I think the PFA were concerned about the impact upon it would have on their members, as would agents.
I understand the impact on relegated clubs. I don't understand why... Surely the EFL could introduce it, regardless of whether the Premier League have it. The EFL could introduce it independently if they chose to, could they not? Or the Championship could do so?
It could do. I mean, we do have a somewhat farcical situation in that we've got now one set of rules which are applying to the Premier League. We've got another set of rules in the Championship, and we've got another set of rules which applies to League 1 and 2. So it does appear to be over-engineered. In order for the EFL to go ahead with that, you're going to have to get votes. And at present, you could have anything up to 8 clubs in the EFL Championship in receipt of parachute payments. Well, those clubs aren't going to vote for it because it's not in their interest to do so.
Right.
So everybody's positioning themselves from a self-interest perspective, and there is nothing wrong with that. We all act in self-interest in decisions that we make as individuals and in the corporate world on a day-to-day basis. But it was very firmly rejected. And there's also a case for saying that, why were some of the big clubs opposed to it? And again, if I put myself in the position of, let's say, Manchester United, you're saying that a club's ability to spend money on wages is dictated solely by the value of the broadcasting deal. Well, if Manchester United are planning to move to new Old Trafford, they're going to get somewhere, based on my estimations, somewhere between 100 and 150 million pounds extra money from ticket sales, but none of that could go into their ability to spend money on wages. So it takes away the incentive to do so. And the argument put forward by, again, some of the big brands in the Premier League, and this is not being disrespectful to our clubs in the middle classes, is that they see their competitors as being Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Juve, PSG, and so on. So they don't see Crystal Palace or Brighton or Bournemouth as being rivals. Yeah. And it's not personal, it's business, and you understand where they are coming from. So why should they be restricted in terms of wages? Why are they being held back by these other clubs when actually they want to be able to pay the same wages as those other clubs at the top of the European ladder?
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans, even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
So just to round up this story, Kieran, right at the start, you said the Premier League hoped that both of these would go through because they would work in tandem. So does this mean the Premier League failed to? Would they have been trying to persuade the clubs to vote for this? Are they putting a brave face on it? Do you think the rule that was passed is going to be less effective because of the rule that wasn't passed?
Yeah, I think that there were some benefits of both of them operating in tandem. I think the Premier League were happy for the anchoring to be a sacrificial lamb.
Okay, right.
In one way, I mean, if I was a theoretical chief executive, for example, I'm not bitter. If I would say it's one I'm prepared to throw on the fire, and also, from what I understand, is that one of the big drivers of anchoring, a very senior executive at a club, is no longer connected to a Premier League football club.
Oh, okay. You gave me that don't ask me who look, so I won't ask you who. We're talking the Premier League ticket prices. There's a lot of people urging the Premier League not to raise them.
Yes, this comes sort of under the broader umbrella of the Football Supporters Association Stop Exploiting Loyalty campaign. And I think there's now been there's been agreement, or there's been support from 116 fan groups with a request to freeze ticket prices for 2 years, to acknowledge that the cost of living is grim.
Yeah.
This is going to be the most Waitrose thing I've ever said. The price of a Toblerone at Waitrose is now exceeds £8.
What? What size? What size Toblerone?
Yeah, for your big, but it's no longer a 400 gram Toblerone, because I monitor these things very, very carefully.
Of course you do.
Is that Toblerone initially they reduced the size of a Toblerone from 400 grams to 360, and I sneaked one out because Toblerone and melted strawberries is my sort of my dessert of choice. They've now reduced it to 340 grams, but the price is still going up. Yeah, so it's
Shocking.
bizarre.
Shocking.
I'm having to shop around. I Google Toblerone special offers at supermarkets.
There's a wonderful Irish comedian, a friend of mine, Michael Redmond, used to do this brilliant joke. He'd say, I won't do the accent, but he would go into a sweet shop and say, how much is the Mars bar? And the chap would say, it's 50p. And he'd say, all right, I still have a few more to see. I'll come back. But which just makes to make me laugh a lot, basically. Mind you, it's such a long time ago. It's probably pre-decimal, probably just. I'm a bit taken aback by the Toblerone. Maybe we need a benefit for people in Brighton, Kieran, who can't stretch to a full-size Toblerone. It's going to comes a bit of a blow to right said Fred for reasons I can't elaborate on. On air.
And Tracy Crouch.
Yeah, different reasons, I would guess. Very
well,
different.
No, yeah, Tracy. Did you hear that gag that Tracy made when we did the live gig for them?
No, I didn't.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
I'll move on.
Yes, do. So anyway, stop exploiting loyalty. Yeah, and if you're listening, Toblerone, you stop exploiting loyalty as well.
Exactly. Now, as far as the Premier League is concerned, in season 23-24, overall match day income increased by 11%. Now, that is far in excess of inflation. However, one should also take into consideration that I think that was one of the first seasons where Liverpool had the extended stadium compete. Yep. So you've got to look at the three components of match day revenue. It's number of matches multiplied by average ticket price multiplied by average attendance. But what we have seen is since the Premier League started in 1992-93, in that particular season, match day income was the biggest overall component of clubs' revenue. The rise of commerciality, the rise of both domestic and global broadcasting means that on average, that the Premier League generates £1 in every 7 from ticket sales. You might say, well, so it's not that significant, but last season, 23-24 total match day revenue, just over £910 million. I think in 24-25, given the change in the clubs in the Premier League in terms of relegation and promotion, I think potentially we are looking at the first £1 billion level of ticket sales, which is incredible growth. So why is this campaign? Well, there's been lots of ticket price increases ahead of the rate of inflation, especially for match day ticket prices at the big brands as opposed to the non big six clubs, however you want to refer to them. And I think the FSA are of they sort of said, real fans, and be careful about this because we've always said try to respect all fans, even if you have come to watch the match from Scandinavia or Asia or Africa, you're still a real fan, and it's a big experience for you. They're more willing to pay higher prices because by the time you've paid for your flight and your accommodation and a couple of meals out in London, Manchester, Liverpool, your ticket price actually isn't a significant proportion of the overall cost, and it's a one-off event. I think it's fair to say that the reaction of the clubs has been not hostile, but yeah, thanks for nothing.
Yeah, well, we know from our own experience, Kieran, American owners in particular are baffled by the idea that they have to freeze away prices. So the idea that they have to freeze home prices as well would be strange for them. I have to say, Kieran, I quite enjoy TNT's coverage of the Champions League. I like watching the goals as they go in. Matt Smith, very good broadcaster, very funny, but I haven't got much long left to enjoy.
That's right. From 2027 onwards, Paramount Plus will be the new broadcasters of the Champions League.
Right.
Sky are getting the Europa League and the Conference.
Oh, okay.
So this means that you're going to have another subscription deal. Because TNT, of course, still have their relationship with the Premier League in terms of matches. Now, currently, TNT are paying £30.99 a month, which means that I've not tended to subscribe to it because I didn't really think that there was value, especially because their matches tend to be. I'm not overly interested in the Champions League, and I don't support a club that's playing in Europe. You might have a different viewpoint.
Yeah. This time last year I didn't, but yeah, I do. Very different viewpoint.
and therefore I didn't feel I was getting value. But if they're just going to drop down to having one pick a week, I think they're going to struggle to justify that subscription price.
Yeah.
Paramount currently you can get it for I think it's $3.99 or $4.99 a month. What's that price going to be from 2027? It looks as if they're offering 20% more than the value of the current deal.
Right.
So that's really good news for those clubs that are competing in Europe. I think another interesting element is that Netflix, by all accounts, were significant bidders, and they were only just outbid by Paramount. So I think those people were saying, well, what's in it for Netflix? I think they might have been surprised. For those people that don't get it at present, there's a really good newsletter that comes out from FootBiz, and some of the guys that we know, they're connected with that, and they've done a really good summary of that. And I think one of the things which was quite revealing was we now seem to have a scenario in which the value of Champions League rights are continuing to increase and increase. At the same time, the value of domestic rights are decreasing. So, for example, if we take a look to see what's happened in France, the value of the rights has gone from €1 billion a year to 166 million.
Wow.
That's a phenomenal drop.
Yeah.
The French football authorities deserve a finger wagging for the way that they've conducted the negotiations on there, but it is indicative. And going back to our discussion earlier about anchoring, you can see why some clubs were in favour of anchoring, because it would have excluded the money generated from European competition. So it does mean that Champions League places, which are so important financially, are going to increase, and therefore the fight to get into the Champions League. And again, this is one of the concessions that was given away by UEFA 2 years ago when they brought in the introduction of the Swiss model. Premier League's now going to have 5 clubs a year, practically every season. I know it's based on a coefficient calculation, but what the Premier League has is got so many big hitters compared to France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. You'd expect the Premier League. So, we've always said that 6x4 doesn't work. 6x5 doesn't work either, but it means that things are slightly better for those clubs. So that's where we are, and my concern, if you now are going to have a Sky subscription, a TNT subscription, a Paramount subscription, and an Amazon Prime, because Amazon Prime get one pick a week.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot. You add up all of those, and you look at your direct debits. That buys a lot of Toblerone.
Yeah, well, also Amazon Prime get the good picks as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So Chelsea, I couldn't watch Chelsea Barcelona last night, which I was happily settled down to do. You say Paramount have added 20% to the deal. What was the actual deal in terms of the cash figure?
I think it was around about 800-900 million. So I think it's now looking at more than $1 billion over a 4-year period. So
okay.
It's worth. It is so important now in terms of Champions League, because you're getting around about £3.50, £4 for every £1 that you're getting in the Europa League, and you're going to get 50 pence in the conference.
Netflix, Kieran, having missed out on the Champions League, seem to be looking for a consolation prize elsewhere.
Yes. This is an article from my very good friend Martin Ziegler at the Times, and again, sort of reading some of the articles, and there's some really high quality journalism taking place, which I think, from my point of view, it's great, because I'm not interested in the new European away font. That's or somebody's got a new haircut. Really, and the managerial nonsense just depresses me. But Netflix have done research, and there's been some of these consultants, there's an element of self-interest in this, and they've said what stops people cancelling subscriptions and what stops people doing anything is addiction. And the Premier League is by far the most addictive product from in the broadcasting arsenal in this country. So Netflix is successful irrespective of sport, but if you take a look at the numbers that they generated when they had that, wasn't it Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson? I didn't watch it because as a boxing fan, I didn't think it was boxing. It's the same with Anthony Joshua. It's not the beautiful game that we brought up. And admittedly, I think we both grew up in a golden age of boxing.
Yeah.
But the figures were so good, Netflix are now perhaps trying to broaden their portfolio. And could they end up trying to get global rights for the Premier League? I think it would be difficult, because the Premier League's got many deals with many different countries which expire in different years. But as far as the domestic rights are concerned, and this will delight the clubs, because I think the clubs are conscious that in 2029 they're only getting 4% more money than they were in 2017, and there's twice as many matches being broadcast as for them. So Netflix certainly have got the resources to compete with Sky, and Sky know that they cannot afford to lose the Premier League rights, because everybody's going to go to the off switch. It is, I'll watch some of the other sports on Sky. Again, I'm not willing to pay £35-36 a month for speedboat racing and underwater tiddlywinks or whatever else they do. It's Premier League football. So I think the Premier League will be delighted if Netflix are going to be serious bidders, because they're only going to get it if they offer more money.
Yeah. I think TNT might be slightly regretting spending a lot of money for the Ashes rights at the moment.
Yes.
We've spoken a lot recently, Kieran, about the finances of the two big Glasgow clubs in general, but for Rangers, we're able to be a bit more specific now.
Yes. I think it's fair to say that last Friday, was a fascinating day in Glasgow, because it started off with the Celtic AGM. Now, I've said before, I own shares in Celtic because I can buy them. And for anybody for a publicly quoted company, all you do is you go onto a website, and you can buy shares. The value of my shares have increased by 80% in the last 5 years.
Wow!
I thought they were undervalued at the time. I got lucky, and therefore, as a shareholder, I would be very pleased with the Celtic board of directors. As a football fan, I wouldn't give a damn.
Yeah.
And therefore, the meeting started, and Derek Desmond, where his name is, his son was speaking on behalf of the board, and I think it's fair to say he went on the offensive against a section of the Celtic fan base, and that didn't go down particularly well. Now, there are some issues in respect of Celtic are sitting upon £70 million of cash, and I've argued in the past that when Rangers were demoted and kicked out of the Scottish Premiership and effectively knocked down 3 divisions, if I was involved with Celtic, what I would have done is I would have put another 5,000 or 6,000 seats into Celtic Park. I would have targeted the corporate sector. I would have said we're guaranteed Champions League football effectively every year, provided we get through the qualifiers, because we know we're going to win the Premiership. And when Rangers do get back, the financial gap is going to be so huge. That I'm not going to. That they're not going to be the equivalent of Aberdeen, but there's going to be a huge gap. And it's going to be almost impossible to bridge that gap. I think it's fair to say that the Celtic board of directors are very conservative in their outlook. Many of them have been there for a long time, and I'm not being critical here. One of the features of good corporate governance is that you freshen things up. So they didn't go down that route. They will say their position has been vindicated. They've won the Premiership 14 years out of the last 15. They make profits every year. They qualify for Europe every year. But at the start of this season, they didn't qualify for Europe. They were beaten by a club who had a fraction of their resources, and the fan base are angry. And you might say, hold on, that sounds pretty precious. You've just won your league 14 years out of 15, and you're moaning. But I think that's the nature of modern day football fandom. So that was abandoned, and since then, Patrick Stewart, the chief executive or chair, and the chief executive, I think, and Kevin Thelwell, the director of football operations, they've both been sacked. So this is a classic example of scapegoating. The fans were kicking off at the meeting. Let's throw them a few snippets. And it's 2 guys who have come in relatively recently, and they're not that Irish or Scottish. So therefore, that's works out quite well. So that was happening, and whilst this was taking place, Rangers announced their financial results. Now it could be that all of the Celtic fans, they got text message, Rangers results are out, let's kick off in the AGM, let's go and take a look at the Rangers results. We don't know. On the face of it, Rangers lost 14.7 million. That's thick end of 300 grand a week. That looks pretty horrendous. However, I think the results are heading in the right direction. The losses are down. They're down 44% compared to the previous year. Revenue is up, which is important. Wages are down. So, those, as a financier, those are sort of the metrics that you're looking at. Those losses were in line with my expectations. They might say they weren't spectacular, but they certainly weren't bad. And I think what Rangers are trying to do, they now have the investment which came into the club during the summer from the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers investment arm. That's led to Rangers now having £30 million in the bank, which they've spent a significant proportion of that. not particularly well on players, and that's why we've got, again, what's happening on the pitch is an issue. But yeah, they're better than they were. And I think what they're trying to do is to improve things on the balance sheet and in the income statement with a view to trying to attract further external investment. I still think that there are issues with the ownership group which perhaps need a bit more streamlining and getting people thinking in alignment. But if it works, then I think they'll be in a stronger position financially. Whether that will allow them to compete with Celtic, we wait and find out in due course.
In Walmart's Who'Knewville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Two stories, Kieran, fairly quick stories, I imagine, based on ground redevelopment. First of all, extraordinary ambition from Birmingham City.
Yes, the Birmingham City powerhouse. Well, it wasn't power. Wasn't that some sort of supergroup involving one of the Taylor brothers from, or one of the Taylors from Duran Duran, and somebody from ELO or something like? But I think, I don't know. I'm sure there was a band of that name. But yes, this is a classic case of testing the principle of build it and they will come. The new owners, who are very ambitious, they are proposing a 62,000 capacity stadium for Birmingham City Football Club. The cost, probably in the region of £2.5 billion. And again, that's going to include sort of the campus, the surrounding elements of it. And then this is where I think Villa fans in particular have been sort of poking fun. It's got 9 huge chimneys. And again, I'm not really sure the point of... Hold it. Come on, Benny, in. Cheers, mate.
He sounds very pleased with himself, doesn't he? Just done my dog work for the day. Master will be pleased. Yes, nine chimneys, Kieran.
Nine chimneys and a retractable roof. So they're trying to make it a multifunction stadium. The cost is significant. Apparently, you'll be able to see the chimneys from 40 miles away.
That's nice.
Well, yeah, that was my view. I didn't necessarily see that as a strength.
You can see the Great Wall of China from space, apparently.
That's right.
I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to do with that information. I'd have to say, Kieran, I preface this before Birmingham fans get annoyed with me. If Steve Parish were to unveil plans for a 62,000 seats at Selhurst Park, I'd say we're never going to fill that. So I sense this is a testing the water announcement, I imagine, because Birmingham City, even in the Premier League, aren't going to sell 62,000 tickets a season, even allowing for overseas fans, tourists, etc.
Well, it is certainly ambitious. Tom Brady seems very bullish. Are they going to try to expand the fan base in the United States? But even so, you're not going to get more than a couple of thousand at most coming across to Birmingham to see it. How that goes ahead, and this is all working on the basis of Birmingham City being in the Premier League. If they've got Swansea or Middlesbrough at home on a Tuesday night in November, I don't think 62,000 is a realistic ambition. So, but they're certainly gambling the house on these proposals. The people behind the ownership have huge wealth, so we await to see. It would put the club, however, in a strong position as far as squad cost rules, SCR, because it's based on match day income as well. And also in SCR, if you do have concerts and other activities, those do go into the calculations. So, very ambitious. Perhaps we might see some of those numbers and plans being scaled down. Perhaps you might be able to see it from 30 miles away when it's finally built.
Yeah, just a couple of chimneys less. A couple of chimneys fewer. I beg your pardon. I suppose so. I mean, Birmingham will be a good venue for NFL games as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think Spurs are trying to sign up for a long-term deal with NFL,
right.
But the nature of NFL ownership is that they'll go wherever the money goes. And I think this has always been one of the fears that we have of English football fans, is that we don't want our product exported.
Yeah. At the other end of the scale, Kieran, Cambridge United have put plans to redevelop their ground on hold, and they're looking for more money before they can do it.
That's right. Cost of redevelopment. Cambridge United only bought back the Abbey Stadium in 2022. It's one of the few stadiums I've been kicked out of.
Really?
In 1981-82, pre-season friendly between Cambridge United and Brighton. So I got there early. As you know, I'm not particularly interested in pubs, and I am a nerd.
Yeah.
So I wandered up, and I think it's fair to say they weren't expecting a big crowd for a pre-season friendly between Cambridge United. Especially, we know what crowds were like in the early 80s as well. And I wandered through a gate. I thought, well, why is nobody asking me for any ticket money? This is a freebie. And I ended up on the pitch. and then this bloke came across, and it turned out he was the manager. I think he was Tommy Docherty's son.
Yeah.
And he told me bluntly that he was going to escort me out of the ground. I'm sorry, mate. I just made an error. I'm not a troublemaker. I'm not up to no good. I said, I'm just coming out. It's a new ground. What ground hoppers are like when they get to a new ground. I just want a couple of photographs with me, my little Ricoh camera. Can I have one with you? No, there's none of that nonsense.
Oh well, just four and a half short decades later, so you're getting your revenge now.
Yes, so they now own the stadium, which I think is good. The owners are looking to expand capacity from £8,000 to £12,000, but they're now rethinking: should they move to a new location? And they're also saying they're looking for and this is quite scary. They're looking for a 20-year return on investment. And they think, well, that's going to take us to 2045. That will be. We will have had our 27th nomination for Best Podcast in the FSA Awards, and we'll be still looking for our first victory.
Just briefly, in passing, Kieran, before our last two stories, we talked about the Wimbledon looking for fresh investors, and we wondered what the response of Wimbledon fans would be. Well, the response of two Wimbledon fans that I know was fury, really not happy with the idea of the potential tampering with their beloved ownership model. But that's something which will be ongoing. Final story, Kieran, final two stories. First of all, we talked last week about lawyers in France coining it in with the Mbappe case, and now lawyers in Italy look like they might be out of cash in on a rather strange allegation.
Spagliato. Spagliato. I will probably get a message now from Nick DeMarco. That's not how you pronounce it. Spagliato is Italian for wrong'un.
Right. Oh, okay.
So I do. People say, do you just make the stuff up? You go, no, I do research. I can't. This level of amateurishness is hard work. Goes into it.
This is why Babbel advertised with this podcast.
That's
right. Our linguistic skills.
So the Napoli chief executive Aurelio De Laurentiis is being accused of false accounting, and once again, it comes down to one of the favourite topics: what's the value of a football player? Because these all involve player swaps,
right.
And the accusation that has been levelled at the and Aurelio, the chief executive, is that Napoli Football Club have inflated revenues and inflated profits through player swaps, and therefore they are going to potentially put him on trial as a result of that. His lawyers, I think it's fair to say, have robustly defended his position, said that the whole thing is a nonsense, and why are you picking on my client? He's a fine, upstanding member of society, and so on. So that one goes on my need to keep an eye on this one.
Yeah. Finally, Kieran, Sheffield Wednesday have come into a fairly substantial bit of money, but tongues are wagging about where it's come from, and obviously, conspiracy theories abound. Is it a new owner? Is it a generous benefactor? Is it somebody who's won the lottery?
Well, Sheffield Wednesday are benefiting from a secret owl.
Yeah,
and we're now 4 weeks into the administration.
Yeah.
So I think that the people involved are now in a position where they can accept an offer, because under the EFL constitution, you cannot sell the club within 28 days of an administrator being appointed. This was to prevent the use of pre-pack administration, where it was you'd effectively agreed to buy the club straight away. You only inherit the assets. You effectively stiff all the creditors, and that was common. Well, no, it was not uncommon, shall we say. I won't mention the names of the clubs involved and the executives involved, because we're both conscious of producer Guy's heart rate.
Yes, fair point.
And therefore we'll do the discreet thing. But one of my concerns was, I'm fully aware of the costs of running an administration, and even if the administrators don't claim their fees in cash until after the transaction has gone through, you've still got the day-to-day running costs, you've got increased insurance costs, you're employing advisors all the time, you've got in your own bills coming in from solicitors and other professional people, as well as the wage costs and so on. And I did the sums. I thought, okay, it's great. That initial surge by Wednesday fans, hat doffed, that can only take you so far. The club was still losing money. And it looks as if a mysterious Sheffield Wednesday fan has loaned the club £1 million, effectively loaned the administrators, to assist them with cash flow during the course of the administration. Now, it's a loan, so therefore, when the club is sold, that will come out of the sale proceeds. So that will reduce the money that's available to the unsecured creditors, but it does provide working capital to allow. We're recording this on the 26th of November. It gives that working capital to allow wages to be paid and other financial commitments, which is great. We all want, and even Sheffield United fans that I know said, we want to play Sheffield Wednesday more than any other club. So,
Producer Guy's heart rate wasn't helped by us suggesting that we do a wrong and special. as one of our Christmas pre-records,
which we might.
Which we might. The administrator will know where this loan came from, though, won't they?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just £1 million turned up in the bank account. They will know where this money.
Because otherwise they wouldn't know who to repay it to.
Of course, but
otherwise you or I could say, actually,
it was me. Oh yeah, Mr. Trick there. Conspiracy theories, of course, but is it likely that this has come from a potential buyer of the club? Do we think?
Could be. Could come from a rich fan that, or a rich person in. I read, I think the fourth richest person in Sheffield is Phil from the Human League.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. And I know that Martin Fry's a huge Wednesday fan. As is who's that guy from Heaven 17? Not Glenn Gregory.
Martin Ware.
Martin Ware. He's a big Wednesday fan as well.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? That would be great if they were taking over.
Yeah,
I have to say I watched the. I think Sky. I should have done a spread bet on how many times Sky said Steel City Derby. Ali can never predict the things that will give me the hump, but I'm slightly humpty by the fact that the administrator, the cameras picked him out several times. The administrator sitting there at the front of the executive box with a Sheffield Wednesday scarf on, looking very pleased with himself. It's like,
well, to be fair, he's a Wednesday fan.
Well, that's
he's conducted himself very well through the media.
Nevertheless,
yes.
Keep a lower profile is what I'd say if you're the administrator of a club. I'd love, imagine Martin Fry in his gold suit announcing that he's bought Sheffield Wednesday. Don't forget, you can now join our Price of Football Club, where you'll get ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and much, much more. Oh, much more. Just go to priceoffootball.com and click on Join the Club, and you can sign up today. As Kieran suggested, it'd make a lovely Christmas present for the nerd in your life. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, and you can find us on YouTube. And if you'd like to buy our book, go back to that very same website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back on Tuesday with our weekly questions pod. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
We will be back on Tuesday. That will be the night after the FSA Awards.
We'll be furious. Oh.
We'll be getting out our little straw dollies, putting them into a Glendenning-shaped, sticking pins into that. But you could make a difference to that, listeners.
Yes.
If you go ahead, I think there's still an opportunity to vote for the FSA Awards. We have been nominated for the 7th time for Best Podcast, and first of all, we're delighted to be nominated, and it also has to be said, the other podcasts that have been nominated are fantastic. I listen to all of them. We're delighted to be within such exalted company. There's various ways you can support the show. Give us a vote. Another thing you could do to help us is to give us a review. Take you 30 seconds. Okay, it won't cost you £3. Take you 30 seconds. That's all. Just give us a review. Helps us in the charts. It doesn't matter what you say. You could even say you would rather have the show presented by Julian Clary and Nick Cave.
Oh, crikey!
I think that could be feisty.
That would be a feisty. Yeah, Nick. I don't think Nick Cave talks much. So Julian does. Julian talks plenty. I'm not sure what Julian's attitude to football is. I can ask Julian. He's lovely. I could just listen to Julian's voice all day. I wouldn't care what he was talking about, really. But
yes.
Nick Cave's got an Australian, and that's quite a good one actually. I like that one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.